G'day, welcome to part 2 of our Pier review of dumb letters. And whereas I might have been a mug standing on a pier in the last episode discussing trams and light rail and zip lines and eagles, in this episode I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. We're going to be looking at a couple of letters on salmon farming and one on the history of ANZAC Day. The first one is from Ian Johnson.
A small token of action to reduce the excess nutrient pollution in our channel could be achieved by the salmon companies changing to dumping the polluted water from their huge washboats in deep water south of Storm Bay. Currently, when the water within these washboats is too polluted to continue to bathe the salmon and needs to be replaced with a new load of fresh water, it is simply dumped as it motors to the nearest rewatering spot. This water is so toxic that the salmon companies, who don't want to pay to put it through a sewage process, currently dump it in the channel where I used to swim and fish. Many years back, the zinc works used to take its toxic jarosite waste in a barge out into deep water to be dumped. Why cannot the salmon companies be forced to do the same, at least? Ian Johnston. Kettering.
So Ian talks about these washboats. Well, they're actually called wellboats. So let's go and see what they are all about. So what are wellboats? Well, Huon Aquaculture has two, the Ronya Huon, the first one, and the Ronya Storm. And Tassal also has two, the Aqua Spa and sister ship, the Aqua Taz. So why and how are wellboats used? The reason why they're used is to deal with a problem called amoebic gill disease, which isn't so much a disease as an allergic reaction. There is a microscopic amoeba in the waterways of Tasmania, and when salmon breathe by taking water in through their mouth and expelling it out through their gills, this microscopic little animal gets caught in their gills, causes an allergic reaction, and it gets a mucus build-up which restricts the ability of the fish to be able to breathe. So the ingenious way to get rid of this amoeba from the fish's gills is to bathe them in a really toxic chemical called dihydrogen monoxide. Yeah, fresh water. Because the amoeba being a saltwater species and the salmon being anadromous, meaning that they can cope with both fresh and salt, means if you put the salmon into some fresh water, the amoeba will die and get flushed out of the gills. So that's what they do. They fill these wellboats up with fresh water, and they transfer the salmon from the sea cages into the fresh water. They swim around for about 2 hours. The amoeba are washed out of their gills and the fish are returned to the cage. And they do that a number of times so that they can use as little fresh water as possible, until ultimately the fresh water has got ammonia in it from the fish's gills and maybe some breakdown from a bit of fish poo, and maybe the pH has got a little bit low, and so they need to get some new fresh water. So what do they do with that fresh water? Well, basically they just release it close to the lease. They do that for biosecurity reasons. They can't take it miles and miles offshore or take it to another lease because there might be any sort of other pathogen in there. Probably not, but there might be, which could get deposited into another region. And all this data is clearly available on their waste management plans. The Tassal Waste Management Plan here details how they dispose of the water, and then the Huon Aquaculture Waste Management Plan details how they dispose of the water. And both plans show that there is no risk at all from this fresh water being dumped into the sea. It's not a closely guarded industry secret that I could get access to those management plans. Spoiler alert, I used to work for Tassal in Queensland, because those plans are easily available on the EPA website where anyone can have a look. So as for Mr. Johnson's claim that this severely toxic water that they won't even put through a sewage system, well, it's just like fresh water that your fish in your aquarium have been swimming in. No problem whatsoever. Now, Ian Johnson compares the dumping of this savagely toxic fresh water into the ocean as equivalent to the zinc works, the electrolytic zinc works, dumping jarosite into the sea. But let's have a look at that. Neostar is a company that operates a large zinc refinery on the Hobart foreshore just north of the Tasman Bridge. It was originally EZ, the Electrolytic Zinc Works, and then it got taken over by a company called Pasminco. But anyway, up until around 1990 or 1999, they would actually have to dump a quite toxic, severely toxic waste product called jarosite, which absorbed all the heavy metals that they extracted after the zinc refining. And the solution to that was to dump it at sea. They had a ship called the ANZAC, which would travel down the Derwent River regularly and out into Storm Bay. It says that they went 200 nautical miles. Well, I can remember living on the shores of the Derwent River, and that must have been the fastest ship in the world if it went 200 nautical miles. But anyway, it went offshore and it dumped the jarosite at sea. Now, there's a subtle difference between the dumping of jarosite and the dumping of the wellboat discharge. First up, as we've said, the wellboat discharge is just fresh water, but it is a liquid, whereas the jarosite was actually a solid. Okay, it was mixed with water, but it was dumping basically heavy metals at sea. And heavy metals sink, whereas fresh water just dissipates. So it's important to dump a toxic heavy metal somewhere a long way away where it will sink to the bottom in very, very deep water. That's a lot different to dumping a glass of fresh water into the sea where it dissipates and becomes seawater. Now, our second letter on the subject of salmon farming is from Ruth Howard.
Reports reveal antimicrobial risk to human health from repeated accumulative exposure to trace veterinary drug fluorphenicol in our drinking water catchment and our marine food chain, affirms Mark Brankovich, Uni Queensland. This artificial farmed salmon farming is unsustainable for our marine and river ecosystems and those who live and make a living here. Ruth Howard.
So let's go and have a look about what we mean by fluorphenicol and how it is used, and more importantly, where it is used. Fluorphenicol is an agricultural antibiotic. It's used in pig farming and cattle farming, and it's used in salmon farming in every other salmon growing region of the world. And after the massive fish die-off last year from the Rickettsia bacteria, it was found that the current use of the antibiotic oxytetracycline was not so effective against that pathogen. So there was emergency approval given for the salmon companies to use fluorphenicol. It was used over the last summer, and it's recently been suspended again because it was an emergency use and because there's concern that traces might be found in wild fish. So Ruth does have a concern that antibiotic residue is in our marine waters. But she also says it's in our freshwater drinking supply. Now, most of the salmon farm hatcheries in Tasmania are called recirculating aquaculture hatcheries. I've covered this off in one of my toxic videos, where Flanagan also alleges that antibiotics are used in hatcheries. Well, hatcheries use a biofiltration system where good bacteria are used to break down the ammonia and nitrite into nitrate. So you can't chuck antibiotics in there because it would kill the good bacteria. There was a case recently at the Meadowbank hatchery where a number of broodstock were treated with oxytetracycline, but that wasn't a recirc hatchery, and nor was it fluorphenicol. And there was no trace whatsoever of oxytetracycline found in Hobart drinking waters. There's a hell of a lot of human antibiotic residue in our drinking waters though. Our final letter is on the random subject of ANZAC Day.
This year, ANZAC Day falls on a Saturday, and as a result, the New South Wales government has allowed a public holiday on the following Monday. I believe this to be totally out of order. If this day of remembrance falls on a weekend, then so be it. The original ANZAC Day was also on the weekend, Sunday the 25th of April, 1915, but I have not been able to find any reference that our troops had the Monday off. ANZAC Day is a day of remembrance and should be observed on the relevant day, and if it falls on the weekend, then stiff luck for those who only see it as a day of leisure. Colweb, Howrah Heights.
So, old Cole is correct. The landings on Gallipoli on the 25th of April 1915 did in fact occur on a Sunday. And no, I don't think the diggers who were hurriedly digging in, which is where they got the name from, had a day off on the Monday. But the 25th of April 1915, believe it or not, wasn't the first ANZAC Day. Because the first time ANZAC Day was commemorated was a year later, on the 25th of April 1916. And that day fell on a Tuesday. Now, I'm not sure whether that was actually declared a public holiday in any place in Australia, but there certainly were marches through the streets. So some people at least got time off work. But Cole seems to be suggesting from his letter that we're actually going to celebrate ANZAC Day on the Monday and not on the Saturday. Well, at least in New South Wales. But is that the case? Because, as would be obvious to any thinking person, the ANZAC Day March and the dawn service and the 11 o'clock service will be held at dawn and at 11 o'clock on the 25th of April 2026. As will a gathering be held here in ANZAC Park in Lindisfarne in Tasmania. So it seems that the New South Wales ANZAC Day celebrations will be on ANZAC Day, just as always. But it's stiff luck that we Tasmanians don't get a holiday on Monday. So I've often asked myself the question, why does the Mercury publish the type of letters that it publishes? Because with my online subscription to the Mercury, I also get access to the Courier Mail, the Daily Telegraph and the Herald Sun. And neither of those mastheads get letters to the editor anywhere near as weird as the ones that constantly pop up in the Mercury. Does it say something about the Mercury or does it say something about us Tasmanians? And another interesting thing is that the Mercury makes no effort to edit or correct the expression or the punctuation or even the spelling. Witness Wayne McDonald's call for the Bridgewater Bridge not to be scraped, because though that wasn't an error in the voiceover, that's what he actually wrote. And the clumsy grammar and expression from Ruth Howard's letter. And of all the letters, at least John Sandals is written accurately, but maybe that's me being really picky and the ex-English teacher coming out. So, if you've enjoyed this little delve into the minds of some of the people who write letters to the Hobart Mercury, please click like, please subscribe, hit me up in the comments below, share among your friends, and we'll see you somewhere again on a pier. I think the next time I might actually get around to that science of learning one. It's going to be very interesting. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thank you.